Your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
A Tasmanian garlic farmer has been sentenced to nearly a year in prison for illegally importing thousands of bulbs into the country. The judge saying Letitia and Ware breached biosecurity laws and posed a serious risk to Australian agriculture.
Hands in cuffs and marched from Hobart's Supreme Court. The former chair of the Australian Garlic Industry Association, today sentenced to 11 months behind bars. The court heard on 21 occasions. Letitia Ann Ware imported over 2,000 garlic bulbs from Canada and the United States from 2015 to 2017, and the Middleton garlic farmer did not hold a permit. Justice Gregory Geeson explained a pathogen found in North America is not present in Australia, and the 53-year-old could have brought in other dangerous diseases and pests. And while her supplies were clear, the judge said to Ms Ware, "You saw yourself as above Australia's biosecurity laws, and her behaviour posed a risk to all agricultural activity." Justice Geeson said he did consider her good character and guilty plea to 10 charges, but her punishment needed to send a message to future offenders, saying others must be deterred from behaving as you have. Justice Geeson also told the court Ms Ware chastised some of her suppliers for not disguising her garlic, and she only stopped her operation simply because she got caught. Ms Ware will be eligible for release after serving 2 months, on the condition she enters a promise to pay $2,000. Ruby COMMANE, 7 Tasmania News.
A police officer in the state's northwest has been charged with assault. The officer has been assigned to non-operational duties over the alleged offence relating to his partner. The 61-year-old is due to face the Devonport Magistrates Court in November. In breaking news tonight, former Labor politician Madeleine Ogilvie will be Tasmania's newest Member of Parliament, replacing resigned MP Scott Bacon. Our political reporter Michelle Wisby joins us live now to explain more. Good evening, Michelle. How did the recount unfold this afternoon?
Joe, the counting showed a very close two-way race between Madeleine Ogilvie and candidate Tim Cox for the Clark seat. Miss Ogilvie led the recount all day and late this afternoon was declared the winner. But it could be a bumpy road ahead. Miss Ogilvie was a Labor member when she lost at the last election, but so far she's given no indication about whether she'll stick with the party or go independent. She has at times disagreed with Labor, taking a more conservative stance. Earlier today, the Labor leader says it's been an anxious wait, but she's still deciding who will be opposition treasurer to fill Mr Bacon's role.
Appropriate for us to see who's actually going to be sitting around the table before deciding who holds different positions. And I expect to be able to make a decision about all portfolio allocations in the Labor Party by the end of the week.
Joe, it will make for an interesting week in Parliament, with Miss Ogilvie potentially taking the seat as early as tomorrow.
OK, that's pretty quick, isn't it? Thank you very much for that, Michelle. Tasmania's struggling health sector is once again in the spotlight, with nurses raising the alarm about the standard of care in the state's hospitals. After a dramatic week in Parliament last week, the government was today adamant it is taking action on health, but long-standing staff say conditions are the worst they've ever seen.
The fallout of last week's chaotic question time spilling into today. Parliament kicking off with Sue Hickey threatening to evict the Labor leader for 24 hours if she didn't apologise for her questions over the Speaker's push for a pay rise.
The convention of the House is to not criticise the Speaker because the Speaker cannot speak or defend themselves. I therefore unreservedly withdraw and apologise.
The spotlight quickly turning to our struggling hospitals. The government facing questions over the 2017 death of a Turners Beach man, who a coroner found died the day after being sent home from the Launceston General Hospital. Coronial findings saying his care fell well short of the standard required.
It doesn't add to the really damaged morale we already have in Tasmania and the difficulty we have attracting staff to work here because the health system's under enormous pressure.
Our staff are saying, and these are staff who have been on the ground for 20, 30 years, are saying yes, both at the LGH and the Royal Hobart Hospital, the hospital is the worst they've ever seen it.
The Health Minister at the time today admitting he didn't know about the case.
Well, I'm not aware of that case, but obviously the government is all about opening more beds, providing more support And if ever there are human errors made at the delivery of healthcare, the health system needs to learn from that.
People who present to a hospital in Burnie or Launceston should feel as safe to get the best of care as they do in Hobart. But because of the chronic underfunding of health in Tasmania, that is not the case.
Parliament resumes tomorrow. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Police are appealing for witnesses to come forward after a suspected arson attack at a Housing Tasmania property in GAGEBROOK. The blaze destroyed the front 2 rooms of the house and is now likely to be bulldozed.
Reduced to ash and rubble. That's the scene inside this Housing Tasmania property on Ashburton Road at GAGEBROOK after fire ripped through it overnight.
Crews responded last night around about 20 past 10 to report of a house fire. On arrival they found 2 rooms were ablaze. Action was to get in and suppress the fire.
Fire investigators and police combed the torched house this morning, collecting forensics and evidence. While it's early days, both police and the TFS believe they're dealing with a case of arson.
Investigation by forensics will continue with samples they've taken. So we are looking at a possible deliberately lit fire.
The fire spread through the lounge room, kitchen and hall. Mr McGuinness says the lack of a tenant helped prevent further damage.
The house has been vacated for about 2 days, so there's no real furnishing there to make the fire intensity great.
Damage is estimated to be between $90,000 and $100,000. It's expected the house will be demolished, leaving those in need of a roof over their head another property short.
Only puts the TFS under a lot of pressure to suppress the fires, but with the current housing shortages, it's disappointing to see another house that can't be used.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
A Launceston trucking company is pleading with drivers to show caution after a spate of close calls. The latest, just last week, saw a camper van come within seconds of colliding with a log truck.
An empty log truck travels down the Frankfurt Highway when suddenly a camper van pulls right out in front. The driver quickly changes lanes, narrowly avoiding a collision.
If there was oncoming traffic, it would have been pretty messy. The truck would have been forced to just brake heavily and probably collect the rear of the van, and who knows what would have happened to the guys in the van.
This Launceston motorist wasn't so lucky in May. Fortunately, the man walked away only shaken. Crashes like these and other close shaves take a sad toll on truck drivers.
They don't really like it, and it does rattle them. Sometimes a big near miss like that will cause the guy to have, the rest of the day off. Sometimes they'll take more time off if they need it. Depends how serious it was or could have been.
Dashcam footage has also been used to help police lay charges, as was the case with this driver on the Arthur Highway in 2017. From its offices in Lagana, the company also monitors its fleet of 30 vehicles around the state. Despite the close calls, an average of just 4% of all crashes in Tasmania over the past 5 years have involved heavy vehicles. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government and the 4 Hobart councils will spend nearly $150,000 to help restart SKM's local recycling operations. They've teamed up to help support an extra Saturday shift at the DERWENT Park facility for the next 6 months. Glenorchy's mayor says it's needed to clear a backlog of 1,200 bales of product.
It's important to ensure that we can process these materials and make sure that we can reduce the amount that's going to landfill. So today we will see that these stockpiles will start to reduce.
Curbside collections are continuing as normal across the Greater Hobart area. Patients were forced to evacuate the Royal Hobart Hospital this afternoon after nearby smoke set off an alarm. The Tasmania Fire Service says the smoke came from hot works at a construction site next door. Multiple crews attended the scene due to the type of building. The emergency department was still operational during the incident. Well, it started as an insane dare, but the charity Love Your Sister has turned into much more. Co-founded to honour his late sister Connie, the actor was in Launceston today raising awareness and sharing his goal to vanquish cancer.
She left this whole country with a lasting legacy, and I am doing my utmost to make sure that her story lives on, which is to make sure that every family is kept free of cancer into the future.
The Dancing with the Stars winner is touring the country, aiming to raise $1 million a month. Samuel will be travelling around Tasmania for the next 6 weeks. Blooming Tasmania Flower and Garden Festival is going green for a good cause. With Headspace to raise money to create a garden courtyard in Launceston. The courtyard will be used by clinicians for counselling sessions.
It gives them the capacity to have different tools at their disposal, different environment at their disposal to be able to work through some of the issues that the young people might be dealing with.
Each year, Blooming Tasmania chooses a different charity to work with.
Engaging with young people is such a critical part because if you can improve the health, mental health of the young people of our community, it's going to be great.
It will run from September 21 until October 6. It can be a daunting step finishing school, but for these Year 12 students, they'll be armed with career options. Launceston College today holding its Career Expo, proving to be a success, with some students having their heart set on further studies.
I've gotten quite a lot of information because I'm going to go on to do some music, possibly at uni, maybe down in Hobart.
The expo allowed students to discover career paths they may not have known about.
The idea of today is to show them that we're here to support them, as to are all the other organisations around us. And they're getting really good advice from some of these people too, and exploring options that they wouldn't have otherwise thought to explore.
Further education and training institutions, as well as employment service providers, attended the expo. Tasmania's most famous TIMBERSPORTS family is hoping to do the name proud at the upcoming Australian Championships. The Beams will go in with a fair chance of securing a medal, with 3 of the family set to compete.
Amanda and husband Dale have been wood chopping together for 30 years, achieving just about every accolade possible in the sport along the way.
I'm a bit of an old girl at this, but it's a sport that as long as you're competing and doing well, you'll keep doing it.
My heart's still beating, so that'll probably do. When that stops beating, I'll stop.
Amanda finished 4th at last year's National Championships after a run of bad luck, but having won the event previously, she's determined to show the up-and-comers a thing or two.
To get a podium's, priority, and winning, well, that'll be a bonus.
Well, Dale isn't chasing a place on the podium, content with just going along for the ride.
I've got no game plan. It's one event at a time, my game plan. I don't try and get too far ahead of myself.
And if the couple does miss out on a medal, all isn't lost for the Beams, with son Daniel a strong chance in the rookie category as he looks to add his own chapter to the family legacy.
No added pressure. We just continue to roll with the punches and chop my logs. They'll always sort of be there and they'll always have their names in the sport. I'll just try to carve my own.
Very proud parents to have your kids doing what you like to do.
Great, it means the family stays together when we have to go do something else, so we can all doing the same thing at the same time, which is the best thing.
The Australian Championships begin this Saturday on the Gold Coast. Tom Cooper, 7 Tasmania News.
And now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Bank of Us, Tasmania's customer-owned bank. The Australian share market has suffered its first loss in 4 days, with every sector, bar energy shares and financials, in the red. The ASX 200 index fell 33.9 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 68.59 US cents and 62.11 euro cents.
To the TSL, and following a shaky start to the season, the Launceston Blues are now daring to dream, with the side preparing to play Lauderdale for a spot in the biggest game of the year.
With around a dozen fresh faces in the squad, the Blues dropped their first 3 out of 4 matches this season, leaving many questioning how they'd go in 2019. But following a 60-point drubbing of the Pies to book a spot in the prelim final, any doubts about their flag credentials have been well and truly quashed.
Just the belief that they are good enough. That's what we've been working towards all year with our game style to hold up in finals, so it was good to actually see it happen.
The Blues take on Lauderdale at Blunston Arena this Saturday after the Southern Bombers were given a harsh reality check at the hands of North Launceston.
I reckon they'll be coming fired up. We know they bring contested footy and they're pretty hard at it, so it's going to be a pretty good game to watch, I reckon, on the weekend. Both sides playing a similar way.
And Harper says his side isn't at all fazed by the prospect of a potential All-Northern Grand Final being played in Hobart.
If we get a chance to play in the Grand Final, we don't care where it is, so take it with both hands, hopefully.
Meanwhile, celebrations are continuing for the Derwent Hockey Club Premier League sides after both the men and women claimed an historic premiership double over the weekend.
I suppose it's really just sinking in now. All those emotions after the whistle, kind of your head's a bit in the clouds, and now thinking back, it's just absolutely amazing, and I feel really proud of the girls and the coaches and our whole team's effort.
I think it came down to last minute, and we had a few top draw saves from our keeper Magnus win us the game basically. So in terms of elation, a 3-2 win right at the end was amazing.
Good evening. 17 was the state's warmest today across Hobart and Launceston. Burnie 16 and Devonport a high of 15. Other centres today, Ooze 15, Strawn a top of 12 and 14 was a popular temperature across Lowhead, Smithton and Flinders Island. On the close-up, low-level cloud is streaming into the west, central and south of the state as a ridge of high pressure moves over. Further out shows a weak frontal band to the southwest of Tasmania and a low in the Tasman Sea with a cooler southerly flow over southeast Australia. Tomorrow shows a high pressure system over New South Wales extending a ridge into central Australia while a cold front lies south of the Bight. West to northwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 5 metres in the west and south and up to 1 metre in the north. A gale wind warning is current for southern coastal waters from Tasman Island to Low Rocky Point for northwesterly winds. A strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters apart from the central north coast, and a strong wind warning is also current for the central plateau and southwest lakes and the southeast inshore waters except the Derwent estuary. Tomorrow's forecast now, Geeveston and Bothwell both reaching a high of 19, Hobart 21. In the north, looking mostly sunny across Launceston and Devonport 19 at KRISTIE. A high of 18 at Strawn and Curry tomorrow. Burnie a partly cloudy 16, sunny at St Helens, Swansea 21 and a top of 20 at Orford. Looking to the 3-day forecast now, Thursday showers easing to the southwest and northeast in the afternoon. Friday showers about the west extending statewide in the late afternoon, and Saturday showers in the west and south clearing in the morning. Capital cities a sunny 22 in Adelaide tomorrow, Canberra a high of 18 and 23 in Perth. And onto current temperatures, Hobart 12, mostly cloudy, Launceston 11, partly cloudy and Devonport 10, partly cloudy. That's all in weather tonight. Back to you, Jo.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for that, Jackie. And that's all from the team for now. Have a great evening. See you a bit later with updates. Bye-bye.